Hello guys, David Vos here. Oh, beautiful day here. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Guys, they're not having a very good day over there in Turkey. Yeah, there's been, I think it's like one of the biggest earthquakes I've ever heard of. Practically an 8 on the Richter scale. It is horrific. And I think I know why. And guys, this is really unsettling. I don't like to be the bearer of bad news. But then again, this is actually, when we get to the end of this video, is going to be pretty good news. Oh, I mean really good news, because we're beginning to define. I really believe that we've got some evidence here for a lot of stuff that we've been saying. And I want to share some very important things. Not just some bad news, but really some very critical information you need to know so you can share it with your family, so we can get through this great tribulation that's about to hit the world. And get to the other side, guys, and we're going to. And the Lord loves us, and He's going to save us all. But anyway, let me share some things with you. I was, I told you guys the other day, a few times, I've told you about this news program called Redacted. Some of you know about it and have been watching it. And look, I don't think that any news program is going to tell you all the truth or anything. And most of them are probably controlled by somebody, or they wouldn't let them out there. But you do get a very interesting perspective when you watch Redacted. They don't follow the whole spiel that you get here in the U.S., even though they're from the United States. By the way, I think this lady that, Morris, the lady that's on this show, somebody told me she's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, so that's interesting for me too. But yeah, I have got a few points I want to put together for you and show you some details you might not have seen. It's kind of like when you go to a puppet show and people start watching the puppets and they begin to think, oh my goodness, these puppets, they come alive, and you begin to believe the puppets are real, right? Kids do that because they're not too smart. They're just children, right? They begin to believe that it's real, and they start laughing and get involved with this puppet show. Oh yeah, grown-ups do that too. It's called television. You begin to get engrossed in the movie plot. You get scared out of, you start screaming, and it's just a movie, right? Well, listen, what we're watching on television, on the news, even world events and real disasters, we start getting scared, but I want you to understand, it's only a movie. They're orchestrating all of it, and the Lord Jesus is not going to allow them to take out any of His children, because we're not appointed under the wrath. There is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. But there's a couple things that I want to share with you about this earthquake and how and why it happened. They actually have technology to create these earthquakes. And so this kind of gives us a clue as to why there's going to be so many earthquakes. I mean, I don't know if the Earth's going to spin off of its axis or not. That's possible too. The Bible talks about that. The Earth turning upside down and all of this. And this is possible, that we're going to go through some real change, Earth changes. But the other thing is a lot of this stuff they're doing. They have this technology to do it and to put on this show. People have talked about Blue Beam and all this. Well, guys, they're really doing stuff like this. So we'll talk about that, but I want basically to get to the point of the video today, which I'll show you here in a moment. But first, watch this.
NATO, led by the United States, is getting desperate. And if you need proof, just look at their bullying of Turkey over the last 24 hours. Now, Turkey is a country that said it would not support Sweden's membership to NATO after that Koran burning incident. Remember that? Well, how did that sit with the deep state people running NATO? Oh, they didn't like that. See, they need to expand NATO in order to survive, and they are dying. So what did NATO do to Turkey? Well, they started fomenting terrorist attack propaganda in Turkey, warning that terror attacks are coming in Turkey. Seriously, you can't even make this stuff up. Remember, Turkey is a member of NATO, and NATO is pissed that Turkey has been trying to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine.
All right, so the United States is pretty upset with Turkey. And if you watch this whole Redacted program thing. He talks about how Belgium and certain, I don't know which ones, there's a number of different countries that have issued, don't go to Turkey, don't fly there, you shouldn't go there. Like, don't be a tourist right now. And they're discouraging it. And of course, that's not good for business in Turkey. And basically coercing and threatening the government of Turkey. Well, they're not backing down. So what does the United States do? Well, remember, I don't know if you guys remember this. It's happened quite a few times. And I've been keeping track of this in my mind for years. And, just wondering, but kind of having a hunch. I remember, I can't even remember specific dates or particular things like that. But over the years, I remember where the United States was really upset with some particular country, like Iran or some other country, even like Turkey and other countries, or Syria or something. And right at the very moment when they're mad at another country, they have this huge earthquake and just devastates the people there. It's uncanny how these things just coinkedinkly happen right when the United States needs it, when they're like threatening them or something. So, right when this is happening right now, this is like huge. The United States definitely wants something to happen. We talked about that the other day. I believe that we're not going to stop Russia. They're not even going to really try. They're just making it look like they're mad at Russia. But I believe that the KGB and the CIA are in on this together. The world elite, they run all the countries of the world. But the people need, in these countries, they need to see the reasons why all this is happening. Like some excuse. Oh, well, that's why it happened. There was an earthquake. Or, oh, that's why we couldn't help it. There's a war. Oh, we tried, Oh, no more oil in Europe. Oh, no more oil in the United States. By the way, the billionaire, the richest man in the world, is making electric cars, so go out and buy one. Yeah, this is too coinkedinkle. And by the way, this happened like a day after the United States issued these threats to Turkey. Like a day later, this happens. Look.
It's the massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria that is known so far to have killed more than 1,300 people and destroyed more than 3,000 buildings. The quake, which had a magnitude 7.8, was felt up to 600 miles away, and there are fears the number of dead could rise sharply as rescue teams search for people trapped under the rubble. Turkey has declared a state of emergency, and the U.S. has already offered assistance. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest.
Whole buildings collapsing from the earthquake's power. Unable to stand against this quake. Almost 8 on the Richter scale.
Did you hear what she said there? 3,000 buildings have collapsed. And she also said there were like 1,300 dead. And she said they're expecting that to rise sharply. And then I've seen reports after that, like 2,400 or 3,000 dead or something. So it's, with every hour it's going up, up, up. But if you can just wrap your mind around 3,000 big buildings like this, I don't see how there wouldn't be just maybe 100,000. I mean, like, if it was really an earthquake and it took them by surprise, then you would think that if it was that big of an earthquake, like almost a Richter scale 8 earthquake, and it just levels and collapses the buildings, there's no way these people can get out of the buildings in time to be saved. This doesn't make sense. So, if it turns out that there really is, maybe only a couple, 2,000 or 3,000 people that die in this, you might wonder if they didn't have time to warn them, or if this isn't set up, or whatever. And maybe they put a bunch of people in these buildings that they didn't want anymore. I'm not kidding you. I think they do stuff like this. They're like, oh, they had this thing going on down there at this particular area. A bunch of terrorists that they didn't like, or whatever, were told to go in there and take shelter, and then boom, this happened. I don't know. I'm just saying these kinds of things happen. But aside from this little coinkydink that helps us understand that none of this is happening because it's just accidental. People are fighting, you know how people do. People just fighting. Governments have wars, and this is just what's happening, and it's just grassroots, and there's nothing we can do about it. This helps us to understand that they're orchestrating this for a reason. Now, if they're orchestrating all of this, what would be the reason? Most people are sitting around glued to their television watching all this, or not, but they hear enough about it that they know what's going on. Maybe some people are trying to pretend it's not going on. They don't want to get too scared, you know. But a lot of people are kind of worried about this, okay? They know that World War III is coming, and we've heard, and especially with the thing that we had for 2 years before that. As long as Fauci's out running around, who knows what could be going on. But we see that Russia seems to be winning, and that might frighten us. Well, friends, you don't have to be frightened of that, because they surely know what they're doing, right? They're causing this war. Then it's going to be like controlled demolition. They're going to wipe out certain things that they want to wipe out. Now, here's the problem. One of the things they want to wipe out during this whole thing is they've got to get rid of Christianity, in the sense of Christians who don't believe that Jesus was not the divine being. You can't have people worshiping the Lord Jesus, because remember, this is all about the Lord Jesus is coming. And they don't want you to believe in that. So that's why they've been preparing for this for a couple of 100 years, and they had these religions like Jehovah's Witnesses spreading pamphlets all over the world trying to tell everybody that no, Jesus is not the Lord. He's just some guy. He's not divine. He was just an angel. And that new covenant, of grace and love and all of this, and we're not under law. Forget that. We don't believe in that. Because Jesus died as a human sacrifice to appease this angry deity, his Father. Yeah, our Father in heaven hates us. And all the sinners are going to be destroyed in Armageddon. Right? So they want you to believe this and be scared and toe the line. So we know that the goal is to get rid of Christianity and the old system, to bring in a new world order and get rid of the old world order. Well, the hinges or the foundation of the old world order is Jesus Christ and the Constitution, liberty and justice for all. That whole concept comes from the Bible, grace and love, and human beings are free children, free moral agents. The Lord loves this, all of this. That's why we made a constitution, because we were Christians fleeing persecution, totalitarian rule, and dictatorship. And we got rid of the emperors and the kings and the royal bloodline. Now we vote people, right? So they got to get rid of the Constitution to get a new world order. So I guarantee that their main goal is to get rid of Europe, which is there's still Christians there, right? And it's a seat of Christianity in Italy and stuff like this. And Rome and London and Washington. But Washington's the big problem. Now, right now, they're taking away the oil. Why? Because they're scared that we're going to ruin the earth. They don't care about the earth. They know that this is a HOAX. What they want to do is make it, we can't run around. We don't have any ability to move around, go any place. Ruins our mental health, keeps us in our houses. They'll keep orchestrating these FLASE, wavy things on a pole, till they completely manage to take away our Second Amendment. This is going to be happening very quickly over the next few weeks and months. And however they manage to do it, they're coming for the Constitution, whether they drop a bomb or invade, or whether we just collapse economically and we're all starving, or whether they have some draconian measures and put us all under martial, what? I don't know. Nobody knows the exact details. But I guarantee this is not about, the United States is going to go fight Russia and stop them. No, they don't want to stop them. They want Russia to destroy and level Europe. And so that nobody decides, hey, maybe we should get together and ask the people what they want to do. Because the people probably wouldn't like all this war and probably wants to go back to the days where we still had Constitution and the rights and liberties and stuff. And remember, the Soviet Union, their economy is growing, whereas all the rest of the world, their economies are shrinking. We don't have oil. We're running out of gas. They're talking about getting rid of the propane. Now everybody's going to run out and have to buy a new car, electric car, which is probably more expensive. The whole thing's an HOAX, and it's just designed to like transfer all of our money that we've got left into Bill Gates's pocket because of the pharma thing that was going on, right? That thing. And all these other expenses and health care. Remember, Obama set that up with this whole, Obamacare, right? So we can make sure that the taxpayers just funded whatever they decided to do. Get prepared for that, right? And then Elon Musk comes along and starts making electric cars. Like, what's he doing now? He's an idiot. And then boom, all of a sudden they take away our gas cars. Ah, now we see what they're doing. Well, he's also talking about Neuralinks and, biotechnology and things like this. So get ready for what's coming, right? The mark of the, yeah. But what I'm trying to say is they're not interested in ending this conflict. They want it to spread. And they don't care. They're not trying to save Europe. They want Europe to fall, right? Because they're going to replace it with the New World Order. And so they're not trying to help. I'm sure that China and every other country, even the United States, will collapse. However they do it. And my hunch is they're literally going to let Russia take the Ukraine and then roll into Poland or wherever and probably all the way to France. And at that point, the United States will probably enter the war. And then it will just be anarchy and kingdom against kingdom and food shortages like the Bible says. But the Antichrist will come along and he'll have a great big sweet deal for everybody. Yeah, we're going to have a one world order. But this was brought to my attention by my friend Josh. He was talking about how there's talk about building this Tower of Babel over there. And there's talk about kind of people talking about this one world order that is more like a Gestapo, like the Ein Führer and all of this. And they even bring out these characters like, you will obey, all of this. And we're like, what is going on? Who in their right mind would be parading these idiots out on the world scene? You will obey. We will take your rights away from you and you will be happy. All of this. And we're like, nobody wants this. Well, it's exactly what I've been saying. It's exactly like Mr. Magoo running the country. The guy who can't remember who he is or what his name is or who his wife is. And yet he's got his finger on the red button? No, I don't think so. I think he's just a little puppet and we're watching a puppet show. And then, like I said, the Wicked Witch of the West is running Congress and all this. They wanted to blame all of this stuff that they're doing on these bad guys. Well, like Josh was saying, it's the same kind of thing here. Before they ever bring in a new world order, there's going to be a one world disorder coming. It's going to be something that nobody wants. We're not going to be cheering for it. We're going to hate it. We're going to have Ein Führer over there. You will, and we're not going to want that. Right? And then just draconian measures. And everybody's got to go down in their basement, open the window, and jump out. Nobody's going to like it. Okay. But when the Antichrist arises, he's not going to force that on you. And we're going to be, oh, yay, he must be the Jesus guy then. Because this other thing, they'll start this thing that looks like a one world organization, a one world government, or a plot to take over the world. But it won't be their final plan. It's just going to be a ruse. And everybody will be so glad that we don't have to go and be, into this kind of crazy thing where these evil, wicked men or senile people or, people are trying to take away our oil or whatever, all this crap. We don't want that. So we'll be glad when the Antichrist rises. And we might even believe he's Jesus because, look, it'll be a fake Messiah and a false prophet. We're not quite sure how this will work, but there's a good possibility that this whole Klaus Schwab, Biden, all these really crazy clowns that we see running around like Billy the Gatekeeper, perhaps they were just put there to scare us. And then when they get ready to bring in the real one world government, it'll look so awesome. It'll be like, yeah, we're going to go back to Yahweh, right? After they've gotten rid of all the Christians that believed in Jesus. And they're just, all that's left is Jehovah's Witnesses and modern kind of Mormons or Adventists or something like this that don't really believe Jesus is a divine being anyway. Like Muslims who don't believe that Jesus is a divine being. Because they won't really care about, at the beginning, they're not going to care about what you believe. They don't care. They're only interested in getting you to submit to this one world government. Even if they got to lie to you, right? They'll tell you, oh, you can do whatever you want. You'll have all the freedom you want. Don't worry. It'll be better, right? And people will believe it, so they won't be mad. But first they offer us a one world government that seems like it's something we don't want. See? So that we'll be so scared that when they offer us something that looks better, we'll accept it. So, once they but during that war and this false Antichrist is running, like maybe Putin or somebody that's causing havoc in the world and war and pestilence and maybe there's a lot of Antichrists like Bill Gates and, threatening us with something and Putin threatening us with tanks and maybe somebody else threatening us with financial problems or whatever. Bozo the clown is telling us we got to buy everything from him now and you will eat what they tell you to eat. And we're not going to like any of this. And remember, once they get the one world government established, there's nothing we can do about it. We'll be completely controlled. So they don't care about what happens after that. They can just do whatever they want. But from now till then, they don't want anybody wrecking their plans or the people going out in the streets and demanding that this stops, right? Because if they started, massacring people, like Tiananmen Square or something, we'd really rise up. And they'd have a big thing on their hands. Just like, hey, why do they care if we have a Second Amendment? They could just level us, right? But listen, if they did that, one city, boom, the rest of us would all rise up. And they don't want to just come in with tanks. And then there's all these hillbillies out there with shotguns, that's messy. That's too messy. They don't want that. Plus, I don't believe they have the authority to do that. I don't think they're allowed to do that. They have to give us a choice. And there will be those who will get the mark of the beast and those who will refrain. It's our choice. So they're trying to deceive us. And one of the things that they have always done to deceive us is try to make us believe that they're the saviors rather than the bad guy. So they do the good cop, bad cop. First they bring in something that nobody likes. And then they come in with the solution. Like, oh man, this is terrible. We got global warming. Oh, guess what? We got the solution. So it's like that. So in order to keep everybody calm and not scare everybody too much. They're going to scare us. That's how they're going to get us to agree to this one world government, right? Which is just war and pestilence and all these terrible things, and nobody's going to like that. And so by the time they come along and offer us the solution, we'll be ready for it. So this Klaus Schwab and Biden and the Wicked Witch of the West and all these people, they're just pawns. They're just there to scare us. So that we're like, wait, we got to do something. Where's the solution? Maybe Trump or Israel take over and straighten everything out. Well, the Bible tells us what they're going to do. It says all over the book of Isaiah, in the latter days, the mountain of Jehovah will be established above the top of the mountains, and all the world shall come and say, let's walk in the ways of Jehovah, and the law of Jehovah will go forth. And there'll be no more Canaanite in the land. And he'll bring all the nations at the feet of this mountain and wipe them off, every man, woman, and child. It will be a bloody bath, a great sacrifice in Bozrah, right? And the birds and the eagles and the hawks will come down and have this great evening meal, the supper. And they'll drink the blood of all the captains of the armies, and they'll drink the merchants' blood, and they'll drink the peasants' blood. And yeah, that's what the Bible says. It's gruesome, but that's what they're planning. But they can't just go from A to Z. They've got to go from A to B to C to D and get us there. So right now, they're just scaring us. Not so much that it's not happening in your neck of the woods. Nobody's dying where you're at. So you're not too scared. Like, well, it's not happening in the United States. Maybe it won't happen here. Well, it will. But they can't just spring it on you, because if they just took the United States right now, it would be a long, drawn-out battle, and people would be rising up. So in the meantime, they got to have all this commotion going on in Europe. They got to take Europe first. They're going to be threatening the United States with this war, and we're going to be scared out of our mind. Maybe Klaus Schwab's about to take over. Maybe Billy the Gatekeeper's going to do another little trick. And we're just so scared. And Trump comes waltzing in, or DeSantis or somebody. And he's like, hey, we got this. We're Americans, right? And by that time, they've already gotten rid of all of the laws. Like, they've come in and they've tried to take our Second Amendment already. Maybe they didn't get it all completely, but they got enough of it. And we start rising up, but in order to control our anger, they get us to start thinking that somebody's talking our lingo, and maybe we could vote for him and we could solve it rather than violence, right? So that way we'll go and we'll vote for Trump or something. And then he'll double crosses. And whoever the Antichrist is, the Bible says he'll come in and make a peace deal, and then he'll double cross the world. That's what it says, and demand that everybody should get down and worship him. So, if all that's what their goal is, and we know that, Christians know that because it's what it says in the Bible, the Antichrist is coming, then we know that they're not just going to go over there and stop Putin, stabilize the financial system. They'll do that at some point. Their plan may be to do that. But by that time, there will be a lot less people on the earth. This will be, in their mind, once their Antichrist takes over, and he's going to rule the world for however long, forever, I guess, Yahweh thinks. Of course, at that point, before they even, just at the time that they break this truce and this great tribulation breaks out, Jesus is coming on the clouds of heaven. So they're not going to be able to accomplish that. But before Jesus comes on the clouds of heaven, there will be the great tribulation. And everybody will be getting down on their knees and worshiping the beast. And the only way they're going to be able to do that, to get people to worship them, is they're going to have to send a false prophet. And the false prophet is going to bring fire down from heaven. He's going to threaten us with missiles. And he's going to say, look, worship the beast. He's the only solution for peace. And the beast is going to put a mark in your hand or your forehead, and that's the law of Moses. And so people will start saying, well, I guess law and order is what we need. Let's go back to Yahweh. And this way, there's no more lying and no more stealing, and we'll put all these bad guys in jail, and it'll be a great world, and we'll serve the Lord. But it's not Jesus. It's not Jesus. And by that time, they'll have already persecuted most of the Christians and killed some of them. But there will be a number of Christians who will not bow and who will be victorious, and they will harmonize love and preach the gospel and, be a light on a beacon on a hill. And they won't be able to do anything. And they'll be the Eliu, and they'll be turning the hearts of fathers back towards sons. And so it'll just irritate the Antichrist to no end. But they will have no power over us. Not one hair of our head shall be harmed. And we will remain until he comes. Because we're going to be offering the world the love of the truth, that they might be delivered from this wrath. And there will be a number of people, a great multitude, that will accept the Lord Jesus. Now, many of them did not follow the Lamb wherever he went. They had no oil in their lamp, and they couldn't see, and they didn't have knowledge, and it took them as a thief, and they ended up doing things that they shouldn't have done. Even though maybe they had good hearts, they got scared. and but their faith wasn't valiant. And it says some of them will be put to death. However, at that point where they do execute many of these individuals, it's because they won't bow down to the beast. Now, they may have gotten involved in the world and they didn't have completely pure, bright, spotless garments. And the only way you can get those spotless garments is to be given a white robe by the Lord through His grace. So they didn't really, believe in Jesus at the forefront. Maybe in the back of their mind they kind of believed in the Lord, but they weren't the chaste virgins that the Apostle Paul said he wanted to present to the Lord when He comes. They didn't know how to master the song of the Lamb, that 10-string harp, which is to bring it into harmony. It's truth. They didn't have all the truth. They didn't have the understanding. They were scared. They were fearful. They didn't trust in the Lord completely. Notice what it says here about this particular time when the Antichrist arises in Daniel chapter 11. Starting with verse 29. It says, at the appointed, or the time appointed, or the appointed time, he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as at the later. For the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return. Now that holy covenant is the Holy One, which is the covenant of Jesus Christ, and he'll want to persecute the saints of the Most High and wear them out, it tells you, and change times and laws and so forth. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Who would that be? I believe those are the Judeans who rejected the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. Okay, pollute the sanctuary. That's the whole thing about the Antichrist, And he shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. That's what the Antichrist does. He makes himself the divine being, and everybody's got to worship him, and you all get the mark of the beast. But in verse 32, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. So there will be many who are against the covenant, and the Antichrist will flatter them and bring them aboard his plan. But the people that do know their deity shall be strong and do exploits, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. They'll instruct many. And they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, by spoil many days. Now, one of the reasons or ways that we can understand exactly what this is talking about is that our interpreter is Jesus. So in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, Jesus is describing this whole thing, and he says, many of you they'll put in prison, and some of you they'll put to death. Okay, who is you? Those are the people, his children, all of us who are Christians. All people who love the Lord in the world. And so here again, some will fall by the sword and some into captivity, some into prison. This is what Jesus is talking about. There's two different groups. Some who die through this whole ordeal, and there will be those who do not die during this ordeal. We get further understanding by looking at the Apostle Paul and what he says about this. He says that there will be those who remain until he comes, and those who have fallen asleep in death. And then we have further understanding unveiled unto us in the book of Revelation, in chapter 6 of Revelation, where it says, the souls of those underneath the altar that had died, and they're crying out, how long, O Lord? And he says, wait until your fellow servants have been killed as you have been. And so here's a group of individuals that are about to be killed during the Great Tribulation. So we know that some of us will die because Jesus says so. And we also know, according to the Apostle Paul and the book of Revelation, which says there's 144,000 they're standing on Mount Zion, that some of us will remain. So what is it like some random thing? Some die, some make it to the end. It's not random, and the explanation to that here is here in Daniel chapter 11 and also in verse 12. And so now we can understand, we get a little bigger picture. So what Jesus is saying in Matthew 24 helps us understand what Daniel's talking about at the same time that we can understand more about what Jesus was talking about by going back to Daniel. So the story or the picture that Jesus paints is opened up and expanded so we get more details here in the book of Daniel. So by the sword means, as Jesus said, many they'll put to death and many of you they'll put in prison. But there's a certain group that don't get put to death. And it talks about that here, verse 34. Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help. But the many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white. Now, remember what it says in Revelation chapter 7. Yeah, it's in like verse 9 where it says that he sees the great multitude that have come out of great tribulation, and they've washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. So, how is it they washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb? We're supposed to just get these robes given to us free gratis. But because these individuals sort of weren't completely and absolutely faithful, there is a whitening that must take place, a purging. So those who are not completely faithful, they didn't follow the Lamb wherever he went. They didn't master the song on their 10-string harp. They weren't virgins, chaste virgins waiting for the Christ. And so they then fell. Some of them fell and some of them were put to death for a purging work, because judgment starts with the house of God, the Bible tells us. So during the tribulation, there will be some of those who are the good guys that will fall, and they'll be purged in order to make them white. And so some of them will be put to death. And verse 36, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the deity of deities, who is Jesus, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that which is determined shall be done. That which is determined is the 3.5 years. He cannot go beyond the 3.5 years. So during this 3.5 years, there will be a group of people who will have understanding. And key words is, they that understand among the people shall instruct many. And yet there will be some persecution, and some of them will be put to death. And it's because there is still a purging and a cleansing that has to be done. And this is why the New Testament talks about the judgment starts at the house of deity. So the judgment's coming upon the whole world, but judgment starts with the house of the Lord. And so those who claim to know the Lord and who are preaching and teaching his gospel, if you're not very careful, you also may fall. Right? So this is what that's talking about. Now let's kind of confirm that this is what this is talking about, and go a little bit further down here and show you something. Let's go to the next chapter. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even unto that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to eternal life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now, by the way, that word everlasting is just age-lasting. It doesn't mean eternal. They've translated it wrong. And verse 3, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn the many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. So you see, there was a group of people that turned the many to righteousness. The many. Friends, this is an indication of how many people will be saved. many. The many means the most, right? More than half. And John, this is what John's talking about in Revelation chapter 7, where he sees the great multitude who have been given these white robes. They are the many, the multitude. And there is a great multitude, and they're of every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. And why is it that they're standing with white robes? Let's take a look at that. Revelation chapter 7, and it says in verse 9, "And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds, and peoples, and tongues. And they stood before the throne and before the Lamb." Now remember, that doesn't mean they're necessarily in heaven. The throne is the center of the universe, and we're all around the throne. The 24 elders, the 4 living creatures, and the great multitude. So with that verse, it doesn't necessarily mean they're in heaven, because the throne is the center, but being around the throne could place you anywhere around, all the way onto the material realm. However, we will find out that they are actually in heaven. I mean, in a spiritual place here in just a second. And they are clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, "Salvation to our deity, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb." And all the angels stood around the throne and about the elders and the 4 beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshipped the divine being, saying, "Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our deity forever and ever. Amen." And verse 13, "And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, Who are these which are arrayed in white robes? Whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are those which come out of great tribulation." Remember, we just talked about it. It's a great tribulation. There's a certain number of days that it's allowed to happen, and the Antichrist is going to exalt himself. And it says, "They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of the Divine One, and serve him day and night in his temple." Well, now, you see, I wish they would translate this book a little better, because they just use the word temple willy-nilly all the time, and sanctuary and different words. We don't even know what it's talking about. But that word temple is not talking about the temple like you would think in your mind with the courtyard and everything, but just the sanctuary, or the most holy. And that's where the presence or the divine glory is. So they're going to be dwelling in the divine glory, in the spiritual realm in heaven. And they will not be on the earth at this time. And this is why they've gotten their white robes, because that's their immortality. "And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither shall they thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living waters, and the Divine One shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes." But notice that it says, verse 14, "These are they which come out of great tribulation." Now the word "come out" is the word to come out of the source, from the midst of, brought out or through it. So they were in the tribulation. They had to go through this great suffering, and they were gotten through it. Okay, this one group, the elect, they bring the many to righteousness. The elect are a certain number of 144,000. The many means more than half, but I believe my own heart says that it is many more than just half. If it was half, that would be 4 billion. I think it will be like a lot more than that, maybe 7 billion or almost all of them. Because the many could also mean just about all, like it says that the money is the root of many evils. Doesn't say all evil, but many evils. And I tend to think it's most every evil in the world is the root of it is money and this world and this system that we're in. So the many really can mean just about everybody. And that's why it says a great multitude and nobody could number them. Nobody. That's how vast. Every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. But they will come out and wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb, even though many of them are going to be put to death. Okay? But the 144,000 will be standing on Mount Zion. That means that there will be a heightened state of awareness. And these individuals will be like a light on a hill, bringing the many to righteousness. They will have understanding and they will lead the many to righteousness. So, we really can, by going to each and every one of the prophets and studying what they're saying about this particular time of the end, comparing them and using Jesus as our interpreter in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, we can determine that we are definitively in the time of the end. We know that Daniel says that there will be some who will come who are against the Holy Covenant. And that's the Holy Covenant, not the Judean Old Covenant. That's the covenant of Christ, the New Covenant. They will be against that. They will persecute us. That we know that because Jesus told us that they'll persecute us. Daniel says they'll persecute the saints of the Most High. But Jesus clarifies that and says it will be against those who love him and who say, we're following Jesus. And many will say, hey, come out to meet him. And he's in the inner chamber. And, there will be many false prophets and false Christs. The New Testament tells us very clearly that Christians will be persecuted. The only difference is that Jesus said, for those of you who endure until the end, by patience you'll gain your soul, and not one hair of your head will be harmed. You add that with what we've already read, and there in Revelation, and there in Daniel, and you can easily see that there will be a purging work, and many will fall. A whitening, it says, a whitening, a purification. Some will fall in order to make them white, you see, and this is the great tribulation that they're going through, and they're going to come out of it having washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. And there will be those, according to the Apostle Paul, that will remain until he comes. And these, according to John in the book of Revelation, are virgins. It doesn't mean they're literal virgins. It means they're chaste virgins waiting for the Christ. They don't get involved in politics. They're not involved in this, voting. They're not involved in the doctor thing. They're not putting things in people's arms. They're not part of the worldly media telling you lies. Well, I just read what's in front of me. They pay me. I do whatever I'm told. No, you don't lie to people. You don't be a part of this world. You must get out of the world. In order to be one of the elect, because remember, this great deception's coming. And what is the deception? It says he's come down to deceive the entire world. That's why he's here. And Jesus said that everybody's going to be deceived. Everybody, even the elect, if it were possible. You see, this great deception is going to be so bad that even people who have the Holy Spirit, the elect, those who are destined, might even get deceived. And yet, because it's not possible, because the Lord himself will guide them and protect them because of their love and because of who they are, they're the elect. The Apostle Paul tells us what that means. They're predestined from the founding of the world. Well, why? How is that fair to be predestined, right? I thought we were free moral agents. Well, we are. But you see, the firstborn, the church of the firstborn, are the first fruits of mankind. And the reason why is because they are the elders. They are reincarnated patriarchs. So the 144,000 were the same individuals that were there with Enoch back in the days of Atlantis. Many of them and all of them were certain characters and prophets and patriarchs and apostles. So many of the Lord's apostles then will be here and are here right now. And so the Bible tells us when Jesus was here, he said, who do they say I am? Some of them said, well, maybe you're Jeremiah or Elihu or one of the prophets. So they expected not only Elihu or Elijah, as some translate that or pronounce it, but they expected Jeremiah and they expected other prophets to return. And we know that it's by reincarnation that they return, because when Jesus was talking to them about the coming of Elihu, he said it was John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was a human being walking around on the earth. He had to have been incarnated or reincarnated if he was Elihu. And now he's John the Baptist. And notice he's coming again because Jesus said John the Baptist is the reincarnation of Elijah, and he is coming. Future tense. He will come. He didn't say he already came. He said, that is Elijah, if you'll receive it. That's who he is. He's Elijah. Right? And he is the one who is to come. Because you see, John the Baptist didn't bring the hearts of fathers back towards sons, that he might not ruin the whole earth with a curse. Because that wasn't the final judgment there. We're living in the final judgment. And in order to stop this, all of mankind to be destroyed, the Lord is going to send his prophets and his apostles back to the world. And they're going to bring the many to righteousness. And that's the 144,000. Now, I want to just briefly mention, and this might be a little controversial, but I've done videos about this before. But if you go back into the book of Isaiah and Jeremiah, it talks about, prophetically, about the millennium. And it talks about the lamb lying down with the wolf and the lion eating straw like the bull. And everybody has noticed that this is this paradisical glory that the earth is going to have at some point. And everybody across the board, most Christians anywhere, I don't know if there's any that disagree with this, but I mean, all Christians expect a millennial reign of Christ. The Bible tells us that the saints will reign over the earth for 1,000 years, and Christ will rule the earth for 1,000 years with the saints. So there's a whole 1,000-year period. That has to be the period of time where the lamb shall lie down with the wolf. It has to be. Because Christ is going to rule over a world that's healthy and beautiful. He's not going to rule over a world that's hell. However, we also know that Yahweh and his covenant is forever too. He's always saying, these are my statutes and these are my laws and they're forever and blah, blah, blah. And we all have to make a choice. Well, there is a corresponding parallel there, because in the New Testament it mentions that there will be those who were sent to hell, which is the lower regions, which we've shown that means the earth. Remember when it says your father is the devil, he's from beneath the lower regions? The God of this world is the realm of the beneath. The higher realms is higher, heaven. We're going to go to the heaven. What does it mean? We're going to be just wisps of spirit? No, we're going to have our white robes, eternal, immortal light bodies. And it'll look like bodies we have here. Break your leg, it'll probably heal instantly. We'll have bodies that never die. Okay? But it's not, heaven doesn't mean we're up on a cloud somewhere. It means on the astrological wheel, there's the top side of the wheel, which is in the light, and the bottom side of the wheel is in the darkness. And there's an age of darkness and an age of light. And mankind is growing to the day of harvest, and the sun will rise, and there will be those children of light that will dwell in the light. So remember what Jesus told us when we were talking about this the other day, where Jesus gave the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Well, Lazarus went unto the table and dined with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom, in paradise. And there was this great chasm. And on the other side of the chasm was this other place. It was hell. Well, again, we've said this is not literal. There's nobody that's going to go to a place where they're always burning and it's suffering, just, eternal torture and everything. No. The flame is a purification. That's what that means. It's a symbol of purification. They're too going to be purified through the fire. But we're going to go to a place where we're not literally having to be purged of the material realm, because we've gotten rid of that lower carnal place and we don't need that anymore. But there will be some who haven't attained unto the light, the kingdom of Jesus. They will be in this area where the worm doth not die. The worm is a symbol of corruption. So they'll still have bodies that corrupt and die. They'll get the resurrection unto judgment, and the other resurrections unto eternal life. The resurrection unto judgment means they'll come back again in reincarnation to pay for their sins, and they'll be judged. So they'll have mortal bodies, right? Because in this classroom, it's eternal. And as long as there's little children coming along that needs to learn, this realm, this eternal hell, will always exist. And Yahweh is forever the deity of this lower realm. And those who are in the classroom are in a classroom that leads to Christ. But there are those that have not yet graduated. That's why we get white robes and crowns, because we're graduating. Some of them won't graduate. And it says the rest of the dead didn't get to life until the 1,000 years were ended. So, at the end of the 1,000 years, then they get to graduate to a place of to a heavenly abode with us. By that time, we'll be further we'll have grown in maturity and wisdom and grace even more. But where then is this lower realm? Well, there is no time and place with mind. We simply manifest everything around ourselves. So the righteous will be standing at the last day, and it says we'll just be changed in a twinkling of an eye. In other words, this mortal shall put on immortality. Right? That which is fleshly will just become spiritually alive. But the rest of the world, they don't change. Okay? They'll still have this mortality. Many of them will be put to death in war and famines and pestilences, and they'll be reincarnated or brought back under the resurrection of judgment. And the book of Isaiah and Jeremiah we're talking about shows that there is this 1,000-year reign of the devil. They live in a desert land, in a wilderness where there's bitumen and sulfur and pits of snakes and jackals and ostriches and all these desert creatures. A dry place where there's no water, right? It's symbolic of a condition that the world who don't receive Christ will be in during the 1,000 years. So they will live for 1,000 years in their kingdom of bitumen and pitch and night owls and jackals, right? Whereas we're going to live for 1,000 years in the kingdom with the Lord in the glory, right? We're going to be with the Lord. We're going to be changed, and our bodies are going to be glorified. So everybody's going to live forever, and everybody's going to eventually be saved or delivered from this wrath, from this worldly suffering. But each in his own rank. And so this is why we're called the first fruits. So anyway, I see we're getting close to an hour here. To conclude, I'm hoping you'll understand what I'm saying, because it's important that we understand what is going on in the world, in politics, only in the sense that we need to see what they're doing so that we don't get deceived. And don't mistake these wars and things like this. They're designed to scare us. They have no authority or power over us. And so the elect are going to have the Holy Spirit, and they're going to have this discernment. And we're going to bring the many to righteousness, right? We're going to be able to explain these things to other people so that they will make the right decision and not worship the beast, right? And when they die, they'll go to heaven, and we'll all meet there. It says, we who remain will not precede those who have fallen asleep in death. We'll all meet the Lord in the sky. So you see, all of this, there's only one hope, one baptism, one faith. It don't matter if you're a great multitude or 144,000. The 144,000, though, are like the first fruits. So What we have to remember is that all these wars and, pestilences and MX or whatever is going on. Don't be scared. Don't lose faith. Don't say, oh, Jesus isn't coming. Oh, the world's coming to an end and we better get down and worship the beast. No. Be brave. Read your scriptures and pray. Start preparing, because we're going to be with Christ soon. He loves us. He's coming to receive us unto himself. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go, guys. We're up to an hour now. Hope you have a wonderful evening. May the Lord bless you. See you tomorrow.